I play music to dogs. They like Mozart. Now, that's maybe a slight oversimplification of what I'm doing. If you look at all the animal and human studies into music therapy, there's a large body of evidence being developed in the efficacy of music therapy to manage numerous conditions, some of which are anxiety, epilepsy, and pain management. Now, a lot of these conditions we also manage pharmacologically, and benzodiazepines have an effect in that, and they will manage some of those conditions. Because benzodiazepines, as a group of drugs, have anti-anxiety effect, anticonvulsant effect, and a sedative effect. So there is clearly a comparison between music and benzodiazepines and what they do. So there are some similarities, but there are some very clear differences. For example, it is very well documented that certain music has an effect on concentration and cognitive ability, the well-publicized Mozart effect. Now, benzodiazepines in high doses would have completely the opposite effect, so there clearly are some differences. But one of the other major differences is that we actually understand how benzodiazepines work. Now, with music, we know what it's not doing. We know there isn't a pharmacodynamic effect. We know there aren't tiny little semiquavers binding to GABA receptor sites. That's not the way it works. But we don't know how it does actually work, and that's the problem. So, one of the things that we know is that Mozart is more effective than Metallica, more's the pity. We also know that piano music is more effective than flute music, but we don't know why. So, to investigate this, I've taken a piece of piano music which has already had a demonstrated effect, and then I'm changing the tempo and changing the pitch, and I've re-recorded it in 3-minute chunks, which I've spliced together to make a 1-hour playlist, which I play to dogs in their kennels. Now, to measure the affected state of these dogs, we need something that keeps pace with the rapidly changing music. Now, cortisol won't do that because there's too much of a time lag, but heart rate variability does, particularly if you use the frequency domain analysis. And as an example there, the output of that on the screen. Now, as well as that, we're also looking at the rate of spontaneous blinking and using that as an implied measure of dopamine activity in the striatum. And that's been demonstrated in humans, non-human primates, and horses. And even more exciting than that, we're using EEG to look at alpha and theta brainwave activity. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wow, that's really, really cool. But what's the point? Well, the point is that if we can actually understand the mechanism of action of music, then we can take all these previous studies in the management of anxiety, pain, etc., and do it better with greater efficacy. Thank you.